Good morning, you guys. Big surprise. I was not supposed to be here this morning. It was supposed to be Chris Smith, but I'm excited to be here with you. And we shifted things because Eric is on with me. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Good.
Awesome. I saw you speak through Pete Vargas's event, and you blew me away. I thought, there's a lot of people that you can hear speak from a stage, and there's some interesting stories, but your story is anybody who thinks that they're up against a wall or think that maybe life is hard, they really get to re-examine what's hard. Because what I know for sure is we had a moment in our company the other day where it was like we're facing a hard moment, and I redefined it inside the company. I said, and I started proving all the ways that things could work out. And then the whole team shifted, and we were in a state of solving the problem. And within a couple hours, the problem solved. And this is something that we were battling with for over a month. And then I got involved, and all I did was shift the belief system of what was possible. So can you share a little bit about who you are, your story, and then we'll jump into it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Perspective is everything. And man, for me, I think there's a lot of power in change. And it took me going down a lot of bad paths before seeing that. And I had no vision, no clarity, no direction, drug addiction, selling drugs, living for base desires, just a selfish way of life. And I found myself at a very dark place. For me, what's crazy is it took me going to prison to actually regaining my freedom.
That's crazy.
And so, I served 4 years in Florida State Prison for an armed robbery. It was a drug-related, it was labeled as a drug deal gone bad. 23 years old, facing life in prison. So when you say back is against the wall, that's exactly what it was. My back was against the wall, and I was scared. I had no idea what was going to happen. But it was at that time where I had to face my biggest enemy up until that point, which was myself. And
yeah.
There are a lot of viewers here, and I'm sure you can relate at some point that at sometimes we feel like we could be our own worst enemy. A lot of times it's mindset. A lot of times it's bad habits. There's different reasons that would cause that. But when you face that, when you change the perspective like you did with your team, the door opens up, opportunities open up, and that's where I'm at now. Is taking.
How did you go? So you were actually facing life?
Yeah, did you have
a series of bad, were you a bad guy, Eric?
Yeah, I wasn't the best. I started selling. Keep this brief. I had an entrepreneurial spirit really young. I was selling candy and CDs through middle school.
That Joel Osteen talks about that. He says, I've heard him talk on a podcast about drug dealers and top gang members. It's they don't realize it's like an entrepreneur gone bad because they're actually resourceful to be successful there. They could do the same thing in the good market. But go ahead.
I was running a full MLM company selling weed, basically. Like my pyramid, So, but no, I started selling candy CDs, and that's no longer cool when you hit high school. So all through middle school, I was driving that entrepreneurial spirit, and I had the attention and feeding some base desires, and feeling needed and wanted by my peers. And ninth grade comes along in high school, and it's no longer cool to sell, candy. And so, recreational use, peer pressure, I start smoking weed, and then it turned into, well, hey, I can make some money doing this. And
this was a tricky situation. I just have a curious question. I think about today in children growing up today, and back in my day, it was weed, or somebody did ecstasy when I kind of got older, in my 20s. Now it's these kids are getting into heroin and just some pretty deadly stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the big things there is the doctors are over, and it's not to push blame anywhere, but what's happening is doctors are handing out prescriptions that they should never be handing out to any sort of young adults, or especially teens that have opiates or have some sort of strong addictive properties in there. And then once that goes into their system, changes things up. I mean, I was prescribed to Ritalin at second grade. Then it went to Strattera. Then it went to Adderall. So since second grade, because I had ADD, ADHD, they were giving me amphetamines, pumping my body with amphetamines. That changes my structure, you know? And so that's where I believe, in my heart of hearts, I believe that's where my addiction started. It was in second grade when I was given these things. So what happens, I think, for our youth is they get shown something, they go get their wisdom tooth pulled, whatever happens, wisdom tooth pulled, they get some sort of prescription. And for a lot of them, not for everyone, but for a lot of them, that opens the door to a new feeling that they've never felt before. And that can lead them down exactly a similar path.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. We could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah.
So now you get like, so what happened? You got paroled. You got like I've never been to jail, so I don't even know this system.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, that's actually not true. I got a DUI once, and I went to jail for the night.
Did you?
I ended up hiring the girl in my jail cell to be my personal assistant because I felt so bad for her. And I thought, well, I felt bad that she was going through this situation. She was a single mom, and she really was. I ended up hiring my attorney that ended up getting her off, and I got the DUI, and she got a wet reckless. Wow. And then I hired her as my personal assistant because I saw something powerful in her, and she was amazing. So yes, a trip.
Wow, what a little side story. I love that. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So
for me, yeah, I was an armed robbery is punishable by life. I wasn't robbing civilians. I wasn't robbing stores. It was a situation with another drug dealer, and we had some confliction, and that's what ended up happening. So I was facing life, but this was the first time that I had ever got any serious charges, any felony charges. So the court had some leniency on me. I had to go away because of the severity of the charge. The minimum time you can get in Florida for that charge is 3 years. So they gave me 1 year over the minimum. They offered me a plea. And
were you scared out of your mind?
Oh, yeah. I had no idea you hear all the stories. I had been to jail before. I knew a little bit of the world, but prisons is another playground. It's another world. It really is. And I remember in county jail, I called my dad. This is when we came to terms that I was going away. And I said to him, look, I said, man, whatever time I need to get, whatever God has for me to change my life, that's what I want. I don't want a day under. I don't want a day over. I want the exact amount of time that I need. And about a month later is when we got the plea for 4 years. So
you had trust. You had trust and faith walking in like, this is what it's going to take. So now you're in jail.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
And it's like you could now become a complete like degenerate with the rest of your life and really go into, I mean, that is a badass day. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not like my virtual assistant sent out the wrong links, or, I've got a launch coming up and I'm under the pressure if I'm going to be rejected or I'm going to fail or it's going to succeed. Like all that is like, come on, like, you're in jail now. Like you're in prison. It's like you have this choice. So
everything basically came to a halt, and life froze. And so now I'm going to a new world, and I'm having to adapt to it. And here's the thing that a lot of people can relate to is that I wanted to change, right? I told my dad I want to change. But when I got to prison, I got to this new space. We get into our coaching. We're starting a new business. We're taking on something new. We set our weight loss goal, whatever the case is, right? That we do.
What do you mean? Like they start coaching you when you get?
No. I'm sorry. I didn't make that clear. So I'm comparing.
Like what?
I'm comparing my situation to somebody else in the free world.
Got it. I'm in jail with you right now in my head.
Sorry. So comparing myself in that situation to someone out in the free world, like we take on different challenges. Like I wanted to change, but here's the thing. This is a big point, I think, in my story is I did not know how to change. I was so used to living in a certain way. I was so used to my mannerisms, my thought process, my habits, that as bad as I wanted to change, it couldn't happen. The first 6 months I basically wasted because I went right back to what I knew. I went right back to what was comfortable. I was sharing my stories with the people around me, glorifying them to get some sort of credit. I started smoking. I started selling cigarettes in prison. Like, I went back to the same behavior patterns because that's what was comfortable. That's what I know. And I'm sure a lot of people watching can relate to that. And
so what happened? Did you get like a aha day? Like 6 months goes by, you're like, I'm the same freaking dude.
Yeah. So that's exactly what happened. 6 months went by. I ended up getting in a fight. And I realized, like, oh man, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to spend 4 years in here and come out the exact same person, if not worse.
Ooh, that's
and yeah. So I woke up, I called my brother, and my brother's like, it's funny. We've got two completely different tracks. We've got the golden child, the Stanford graduate, the professional tennis player, top 100 in the world, the successful entrepreneur, and then we've got the high school dropout, drug dealer, ex-con. So we have golden sheep, black, or golden child, black sheep. Yeah. So I call him up. I say, Jeff, I need help, man. Like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea how to create this change that I want. And he says, all right, I got you, man. You're ready to, like, start with this. He sent me 2 books. He said, read these 2 books, and then we're going to get on a coaching call once a week.
The power, first of all, the power of knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, there's that saying, like, the people who read, they lead. And like, that is a big deal for me and my son. Cause I'm like, at my worst moments in life, you could pick up a book and start reading, and whatever you're reading, like, just completely transforms your world in that moment. Anybody who reads knows that. You read you read the Bible, and all of a sudden you start seeing God everywhere. You read A Course in Miracles, you're going to start seeing miracles everywhere, but not grounded in God. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just like these interesting, like magic or God or.
The best is when you open the book and you read the first page and you get exactly what you needed from that page, whatever it was. Close it, you're off to the races. Like, you don't sometimes you don't even have to go into the a couple of chapters.
It influences your mind. That's because you're a quick start. Okay, so you read what were the 2 books?
Yeah, of course. The Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. Good book. And Timothy Ferriss, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Awesome. Which there is no 4-hour work week, but he even says that, but that's great. Okay, so now you've read the book, your brother's coaching you.
Yep.
So, and then what was the main shift?
Yeah, this was basically where I was introduced to a world I had never known. And now we're talking values. We're talking belief system. We're talking the power of positive thought. We're talking affirmations, gratitude lists. We're talking vision. We're talking all these things that I believe have to be in place and that you have to stay consistent in. You can't just pick them up. I mean, I still practice these things every day. And there's specific ones I hit on a daily, on a weekly, on a quarterly basis. And this is what got me started. Literally, it awoke the giant within me. And
let me ground something that you're saying right now. So, we run like all these different things inside of HeartCore. We run contests. We run, 1 year I gave away my Porsche. You know what I mean? Just for my clients. I didn't even it wasn't even like a big, I didn't get the news involved. I didn't get people, I didn't make it a big campaign. It wasn't connected with a launch for me to make money. So you talk about values, generosity is one of our biggest values, right? I believe it's a key door to everything working. Like, you're afraid to do a video, you just have to become generous. Like, you've heard me talk on this topic, right? It's the key. And so, but saying that, it's when I gave away my Porsche, it's like the person who won the Porsche wrote every day, I think it was 100 times, she was going to buy my Porsche. She named my Porsche, everything, right? And every day she was consistent with it. Every day she was getting online, she was talking about it. She bought a little Porsche and put it it was either on her shoulder in every video. I mean, she looked like a total dweeb. And the cool thing about that is that she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
What she cared about is her vision was to win that Porsche, and now she's traded that Porsche in and gotten a white version of that Porsche, and so she's leveling up in what she's up to. And I think about that, right now we're running a contest inside the Zone event, and for our clients, somebody just won $30,000. A team just won $30,000 in 2 days. Huge generosity. People who can win $2,000, $4,000 a week. And it's why does a person be able to assemble a team and create a movement like Martin Luther King, like your brother, create a movement in you? Well, it's this consistent, relentless connection to change. And people think if you just write in a journal, shit, you guys, I wrote my journal today. But this doesn't get action. This grounds an obsessive thought that I run